All right, Roger, what'd you do with it?
Take it there was no other applicants that came in either?
One, Casey, what's his name? Excuse me, Corey Asbell. He's a professor at the Med Center, George Fox University's medical facility there.
Cool.
And his wife, same. But he was going to submit it today, but he doesn't have an editor for his PDF at home.
Does he live nearby?
Yeah. He's in our neighborhood.
In the Greens?
Yeah.
We could print one off and have him fill it out tonight and email it.
Yeah, there's probably, he can print it off, but he has to handwrite it and submit it. But tonight, yeah, she's gone, so I don't know what that's gonna.
All right, so Richard has just told us that we're live.
Okay. Fantastic.
We're good to go. We can call the meeting to order and announce that you don't have a quorum if you want to, unless someone else.
Yeah, just give me a minute.
Sure.
I'm still trying to find one agenda that we have. I sent it. I think everybody has it, right? You never got it?
No. So the one that's online is a save as of the March agenda.
You're kidding.
That's what I'm going to go look at
Oh
now.
my goodness.
That's why I was asking this morning if there was an updated agenda.
Mm.
This is not good, not good, not good at all. My goodness.
I printed the agenda this afternoon for 5/12.
Who am I
Okay.
listening to?
That's Kellen.
Kellen's there.
Oh,
Kellen, where did you get the updated agenda?
Yeah.
That is not a reflection of a prior meeting.
Oh, I don't know if it's a reflection of the prior meeting. It says the May 12th agenda, and it's got approval minutes from April 14th, 2025 meeting on it. So I figured it was updated.
That sounds like what we'd be looking for.
let me see.
Let's see.
I'll look
I
at it
see
right now.
that link on the right-hand side of the web page, and I see a meeting packet for
Okay.
5/12.
Open it up. That's the one I sent. Okay, perfect. I got it.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I'm looking at the right spot.
We ready?
I can see how you did that. So
As ready as we can.
All right.
say call it to order with who you have,
Yep.
and we just won't be able to make any decisions.
Okay, call to order at 5:35. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's do the flag salute. All right, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Label.
All right. Roll call. It's going to be short.
Yeah, pretty short.
Here.
Okay. Tony Roos is here, Bob Travers is here, and then, of course, the new superintendent,
And then we have Kellen online as well.
Clay Downey. What's that? Oh,
We have Kellen Saskin on.
Kellen, the liaison, is on Zoom, if I'm not mistaken. And looks like I'll read this. Tom said I'm in Alaska at the moment, so shoot me the link and I will jump in. Shoot me the link. It's the same link as we've always used. Tom, if you have it. But if not, let me know.
What's Tom's, I can text Tom.
Hmm?
I can text it to Tom really quick, I think.
Sheridan.
I don't have his phone number. I don't have him.
All right. So this is live. It's open to the public. And so why don't we just move forward?
Okay. So just for the record, no quorum is present.
Again, no quorum tonight. So it's just information only. And that's the way it's going to be because there is no quorum. All right.
So now meeting minutes don't get taken then?
I don't know. I think we still do minutes.
We, so the meeting minutes can be done on the meeting that's held, but we can't approve the minutes from the prior meetings. Do each of you have your mics on?
I didn't.
Okay. Richard, thank you. All of us have our mics on.
All right. So we can't even approve or anything on this stuff. No.
Yep.
Any
Yeah.
public participation, Richard, tonight? Only Kellen, got it.
Okay, so no public comments.
Okay, Brandon Slider or Slater?
We can ask Brandon if he has any public comments he'd like to share.
Yep. Brandon, would you like to comment on anything at this moment? Can he hear us, Richard? All right.
Richard, is that a yes, he can hear us, or a yes, he'd like to make a public comment? Okay, thank you very much. So, and hearing no public comment, I think we can go on to the next item.
Yep. Okay. On to the next item. Committee reports, action items. The first one is I asked Richard if he can put up the PowerPoint presentation that I did for the Board of Directors. And I was asked that if I could do that, people would appreciate it since it was at the board's meeting last month. And our committee never heard it. So if that's possible, Richard, were you able to put that up? Okay. If there is no objection, I will continue with that.
You're welcome to.
All right. Yeah, if you don't mind, Richard, we'll take it on the screen for the public and for us here. All right. You're taking notes, right?
Okay.
Thank you very much. All
Hey,
right.
you had enough to do to run the meeting?
Yeah, a lot more. All right. Yeah, we're gonna wait for a second here. Tonight, we're going to just have a very open forum, and great. And we'll start out with the PowerPoint presentation. And this was our report to the Board of Directors back in April. And so we're pretty much there. We're almost to the point where we submit the finalization of what phase one is for us, which was just the gathering of information and submitting that information to the board. Whatever format the CPRD staff wanted us to provide to the board, that's what we were waiting for. We finally got confirmation on what to do and how to do it. So that will be right after this meeting. Give it a few days and everything will be in place on our website, the committee's website. And then so the public can view it as well as anybody that opens it up. Okay. All right, so the committee formed by the CPRD back in July of 2024. There were 7 members. It was Bob Travers, Roger Kulman, we're still here. Tom Sheridan, which is on Zoom. Dennis Lewis is no longer with us. Jeff Dillon no longer with us. Joe Fischer and Tony Roos. Those are, now we have what, 5?
Yes.
Okay, the summary of the Golf Course Advisory Committee. Excuse me. Okay. Says, as you can read, our committee was tasked with the essential responsibility of gathering insights from a diverse range of individuals, associations, and community groups, along with exploring opportunities within public and private schools that offer golf classes. We aim to evaluate the potential impact significance of developing a vibrant new public facility at the picturesque Chehalem Glen Golf Course. This envisioned facility would serve as a hub for community gatherings, featuring an elegant venue for public events, a delightful restaurant offering a variety of culinary options, a stylish bar and lounge, inviting outdoor seating, a well-stocked pro shop and convenient snack bar, and perhaps even a charming wine cellar to enhance the overall experience. Okay, next. Bypass that one. Okay. All right. So the other things that we were asked to do is contact the local hotels and motels in the area, gather their response to having a new clubhouse and possible event venue that we can offer to the public. Golfers, we certainly did a lot of questions through a survey that we did for over 6 months, I believe, over at Chehalem Glen. Got a lot of response from that. Local real estate contacts, current staff of Chehalem Glen Golf Course, local educational establishments as mentioned, visitor and tourism organizations, local winery associations, community service clubs, and surrounding golf clubs. They were instrumental in giving us valuable information so we can gather it, like I said, and pass it on to the staff and the board of directors for their perusal. Okay, the clubhouse, next slide, please, Richard. Number 6. The clubhouse should include several key features. This is all taken from the people that had input, in which we had almost 200 inputs from a lot of the people out in the area, including the golfers and the other establishments that I mentioned. Full service restaurant, that was probably the number one thing that we received. Pro shop, that was a big one. Snack shop, banquet and multi-use facilities, family-friendly amenities through thoughtful parking design, which we cannot ignore at all, architectural compatibility, financially viable, and future-proof. Please do me a favor, Tony, would you explain what future-proof means? You have any
Sized
idea?
appropriately for the third nine. Size, it's
Could be. Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
absolutely.
What did you get a sense of that architecturally compatible would be architecturally compatible with? The golf course
The
and the
triple wide.
amenities?
we want to look at the
Compared-
triple wide.
Okay.
To the triple wide. But there was other things involved, like there are certain things that we didn't think was we were able to do because of the cost. And so that's the compatibility architecturally. If it's not designed properly, there were certain things. What was it? An outside seating area that had the use of the what do you call that? Simulation bays that some of the clubhouses have. We are hopefully we're going to get a lot of the stuff that we've heard about and wanted. A lot of the clubhouses were able to provide us with their information and what they would rather have had or would need if it was to be redone over again.
But the shape, I think, maybe not the shape, but the architectural feel to match wine country.
Okay, so kind of a wine country and general area compatibility.
That too.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. All right, number 7. So the committee was able to recommend some of the things. There's a few of them. Contract with consultants to develop feasibility study. That's our next phase. We're going to get into, and we'll be talking about that tonight. Evaluation and condition of existing facilities, trends in clubhouse design, features that should be included, specifications of building and site, estimated cost of construction and operation, and an estimated time frame for this project to be completed. And then also contract with consultants to develop a business plan. That's part of the next phase. Determine financial needs of the project. Estimate revenue, trends in golf participation, competitive analysis of nearby facilities, explore third-party operations, financing options that minimize exposure to CPRD. Next paragraph, next slide, please. Okay, now these are the members' statements. We, as a committee, I felt compelled to ask each member for their input on the time that they've spent here and what they got out of it. And so here's what all of them, pretty much all of them said. Roger Kulman said, a new clubhouse should be a multifunctional facility that meets the current and future needs of the golf course and the community. This new clubhouse will evaluate the overall experience for players and guests and serve as a cornerstone for community engagement, economic development, and long-term sustainability of the golf course. Dennis Lewis, who owns Lewis Audio, he was part of our committee until he had to leave. He said, to help bring a needed community asset to life that will not only enhance the golf community, but also provide a meeting facility that will attract outside organizations to Newberg. He also says our community is enjoying a large growth in tourism and is being recognized as one of the Oregon's best places to visit. CPRD plays a very large role in this recognition. Joe Fischer, he's not here tonight. He said, looking at the golfers survey, The 4 most important features, additions, and implementations are: number 1, a new restaurant for golfers and non-golfers, which includes a bar and a quick service window. Number 2, a separate space for the community to utilize for events, parties, meetings, and other large group outings, including tournaments. Number 3, more seating in communal areas, with outdoor seating being a must. Number 4, a pro shop with more golf offerings in equipment, gear, clothing, and accessories. Tony said, creating a new clubhouse at Chehalem Glen is an exciting opportunity to design a space that fosters community, relaxation, and various activities. To ensure that the clubhouse meets the needs of all users and provides a comfortable and inviting environment, here are some highlights he recommended or entered. Number 1, restaurant, of course, and a snack bar. Outdoor dining. Number 2. Number 3, separate location to accommodate banquets. Number 4, facilities that blend with the existing environment and support sustainability, is financially viable, and keeps the cost of golf and food are reasonable without increased taxes and other activities such as weddings. And number 5, a pro shop that could include a simulator.
Tony, since we've got you here, can I ask you a question on that one? When it says separate location to accommodate banquets, so that would be separate from the restaurant pro shop type area, like the kind of a banquet hall,
Either a banquet
multi-purpose
hall or
room?
a pavilion.
Okay. But not necessarily a separate building, but maybe a separate building, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like Langdon Farms has their outdoor pavilion
Okay.
that's next to.
Cool.
Tony also says adequate parking with provisions for overflow and deliveries. 7 is accommodate the future third 9 holes and other uses of space. And number 8, future-proof facility, including Wi-Fi, EV charging, meeting room AV needs, and flexible meeting spaces. Number 9, faculty constructed to keep operations and maintenance costs at a minimum. And number 10, consider third-party operations of restaurant, banquet, and meeting space. And then in conclusion, this was a challenge for us to conduct a thorough investigation to determine the requirements for constructing a new clubhouse at the golf course. CPRD expectations from us to identify the anticipated advantage of establishing a new clubhouse. And then the community feedback said solicit and compile responses from neighboring communities regarding their perspective on the proposed clubhouse. A lot of information was trying to get gathered very quickly in the less than a year we started this. Responses from local organizations, I already talked about that. Financial commitments, that is going to be discussed in the phase 2, but evaluate the financial resources necessary to support this project. And then the time frame. How soon can we get this thing done? A lot of us want it now. Anyway, next phase will pursue the feasibility and the business plan, like I said. That's it for me on that. Any comments?
What was the board's response? I wasn't able to attend the meeting.
The board response.
What questions,
Of what?
what questions they have of you, or
You mean when I finished this the
Correct.
first time? They said good job, a very good job. It was very thorough. The staff came back to me and Roger and said, you guys have followed every direction that we asked of you. So that was a very positive thing that we got from CAT, which is the Oh,
PID,
hmm?
Public Information Director.
PID, okay. Yeah, so it was very positive.
So
Thank you.
they're still in support of moving forward.
Yeah, well, we don't, we'll find out. Be a total surprise, but okay. All right, where were we? Okay, well, that was my report. Let's go to,
Roger says, hang on.
oh, sorry, say it again. I didn't see what it was. Who was it?
He said, wait a second.
Oh, okay.
1 second.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, Richard, does the public see what you're typing?
I think probably not. Would
Okay,
be my
good,
guess.
good. All right. Do you want to go to the RFP now? Discussion on that?
I can. Oh,
Is
yeah, she has.
discuss preparation, what's that?
Yeah, she has a copy of it.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's going to be the next, what we discussed.
So CPRD sent me a template from the RFP they did for the Aquatic Center.
Okay.
And so, taking very few liberties, I followed that template and prepared the draft RFP and sent that to staff and to the committee for review. I didn't send the
A
committee,
little closer to you. but just
I
in
didn't
case.
send the committee out the standard contract. That's just ad nauseum that you don't want to read. Leave that to the risk managers for the consultants there that want to read it. So in that, so the RFP basically describes everything that you just presented about what we want and what we're hoping. I do need to probably add a little more on the financial to add in that we want some of the financing options reviewed. I didn't add that to the RFP, so I will update that. And then with the RFP comes 4 exhibits or attachments to it. So back up, in the RFP there is what do we want? There's 5 basic questions that go into, or if you can scroll down, Richard. Keep going. So the scope of services, that's, I'm gonna add the financial, so those are the first 7, 8 bullets there. And then keep going down, put a budget in there for about $120,000. I think that's what was in the proposed budget.
We had a little more than that
160.
actually. We had 2 line items for a total of 160, so each were 80,000. So we've got more.
Okay.
But I was curious, the 120 from there, or some of the figures I've heard before, do we know where those were coming from?
I reached out to a financial audit guy and to 3 architects and said, this is kind of what we're hoping for. What do
Okay.
you think the ballpark's gonna be?
Were the scopes that you think they were doing pretty apples to apples, like it was
Yeah,
just a
'cause I told
clubhouse
them-
as opposed to?
I gave them all the same direction.
Okay, cool.
Roughly of what we're hoping in the feasibility study.
Excellent.
So we can keep going down. Everything's gonna be submitted to Clay and to Casey. And so here's the criteria, the response criteria from the proposers. One's gonna be a cover letter that documents, you know, some perfunctory things, that they're resident bidders, that they're, thank you. That they have the insurance coverage, you know, just the silly things we need to know so that we know they're kind of pre-qualified, without saying pre-qualified, that they're qualified to do this. Part 2, question 2 is the project understanding and key issues. So I want them to tell us in their words, what is the project we're trying to accomplish and what do they see as the key issues? So it gets into their understanding, it shows that they understand what we're hoping to accomplish with the project. And we'll get to the scoring criteria here in a bit, we can talk about. Part 3 is their approach and resource allocation. So what approach are they gonna take to step by step to get us to the concept study and the financial feasibility? What order are they gonna do things? What are they gonna do? They're all kind of a different way to skin the cat. I wanna see in this response, what I hope to see is a logic that follows. And they may all have a different logic, but as long as there's a logic there that flows, that makes sense to us and to staff, that's what we're hoping for. Question 4 is qualifications and experience. So where have you done this before? What samples can you say you've done this? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a golf course clubhouse. It could be a clubhouse for a winery or a tasting room or something. But as long as it's the same, you can show that there's similarities between what we're hoping for and what that example project is.
Good.
I'm sorry, qualifications is the staff, the people. Performance examples are the projects. So who are the people you're gonna put on the project, and then what project samples do you have? So 4 is people, 5 is projects. 6 is sustainability. That remains unchanged from the aquatic center, but we want to understand their approach to sustainability. And 7 is supportive information. So I'll give them 2 pages to give us anything else they want that they think can show us that they're the most qualified firm for the project. Response conditions, that's all normal. And then the very last page of this is the scoring. So the scoring for those sections are cover letter is a pass-fail. There's not a lot there, but I will tell you that a good consultant puts energy into the cover sheet to set a vision. If nothing else, it sets a vision that they understand the project and the perfunctory stuff they have to provide. And then the rest of it makes sense if you can show us what your vision is. But there's no points for the cover letter. 20 points, and you can see how I weighted this. 20 points for the key issues, project understanding. The approach got 15. Their qualifications of their staff, I want qualified people and qualified projects. So 50% as my proposed scoring was on the people and the project samples they provided. 10 points for sustainability and 5 points for supportive information. But that's,
I like the point system. Yeah.
Scoring rubric's a good way to go. One of the questions I had, sustainability with how you're looking for it. So I'm used to coming from other jurisdictions where they might have like an adopted climate action plan or an adopted sustainability plan where you have kind of clear things they're doing. For here, I would say that sustainability would be generally good, but we don't have a lot of anchors. Does that seem consistent with, Tony, what you've kind of seen so far, or were you kind of hoping staff might be able to fill in like what would be desirable
I did a
things?
save as
Yeah.
what I got from the. It can go any way. I mean, do we want this to be a LEED platinum, LEED silver building? My experience is no.
Would you explain that to the
What
public and me?
LEED is? You might know what LEED
Oh,
stands for.
L-E-A-D.
LEED.
L-E-E-D.
It's a certification you can get for the sustainability of a building, the air quality, the CO2, the.
Yeah, our hospital was when they first opened.
Yep.
It means leadership in energy and environmental design, and I did not know that off the top of my head. I had to look it up. But,
Thank you.
But almost nobody says the entire acronym. I can't remember the last time I've heard it, but
Okay.
LEED certified is the sustainability.
And there's different levels of
benchmark.
certification you can get by doing different treatments to the design, into the design and or into the construction. I think there are principles of LEED that could be applied to this building to make it more sustainable for the operations and the cost of the construction. I don't know that getting it certified gains us anything as a parks district. Where you see the certification gaining you something is an office building that the tenants want to live in a sustainable building. So you get your building certified and you can charge more rent. We're not charging rent here. So, but there are elements of LEED. So what are elements of sustainability we want to see included into the design, but not at the risk of cost?
I would say that on the sustainability front, one of the things that would probably be generally good is sustainability can be good from the standpoint of making a building perform well, kind of a high performance building. And so that's one where it's highly efficient.
Yes.
And so that means the costs are lower from the use of water, the use of electricity, the use of gas, those sorts of things. And they tend to be more comfortable. They perform better in that they better insulate, they keep you cooler, they keep you warmer on
Take
those days
advantage
when
of
you are
natural-
trying to be warmer or cooler.
What would be the definition of this, a clubhouse like this being built? In other words, where would you categorize it in buildings, like it's not a restaurant per se specifically, it's a multi-use facility. And is there any need or desire, probably a desire, but a need for approved construction of a particular building like this? And what else did we call it? LEED?
Lead.
Yeah, LEED.
I mean, to Tony's point, some of the outcomes that you get with having a sustainability score in there would be good. And to me, the idea that you get a better building performance would be desirable from the staff side of things. Also, if that reflects some of the community values that we generally don't want to be wasteful of electricity and water, and that can come from an environmental standpoint, or it can come from a cost and kind of fiduciary side of things. So it can be either of those. The other side, when you talk sustainability, tends to be about equity and access and those sorts of things, but we're already a public golf course. We know that we tend to lean into that more just by the nature of the facility in the area. So more than a typical private golf course would be. So we're probably doing okay on there. You can always do better, get more folks out there, but we're kind of doing some of those things by the nature as by the nature of it being a public facility, as long as we do a good job of recognizing that.
Was the aquatic center ever recognized like that?
I don't believe it was.
It was.
I know just knowing who the architect was, they would have baked some of the sustainability elements into it. You know, using natural lighting to the extent practical. So you see a lot of windows on the upper edges to let natural light in as much as possible, limits the amount of lights being burned and power being burned.
Okay, great. Good job, by the way.
So the other attachments that went with that,
Yeah.
first was a site, there we go, kind of the area of consideration for where the project's gonna go. And I drew a pretty big boundary over the putting course and the existing parking lot, and want to confirm that that's the area leading up to the 12th tee.
I have my 2 cents on this one.
Sure.
Yes, I would like, personally, because our biggest concern is going to be parking. If we build this as we would like to see it with event and banquet rooms and event facilities, et cetera, larger kitchen has been requested many times. And also what revenue generation is going to be included in this structure that is being built as a clubhouse? Is it going to make more money in a smaller space than the putt-putt course? And in my estimation, yes, of course it would, if you build it that way. And so if we were able to look at these feasibly and say, hey, look at that, it makes more sense to build a structure that has a lot more opportunity for revenue generation. You can justify getting rid of a 9 putting area as it's shown there.
Until I looked at the aerial, I had no idea that was there.
Oh, is that right?
Well, I would say that one of the things that I'm going to put a con in there, that's one of the publicly available free amenities that we have to the public.
$5.
Well.
I didn't know that until I went over there with my wife and paid the $10 for both of us, so.
To go putting, it is?
Correct. The 9-hole putting course does cost $5 per person for daily use.
I have been telling people it was free, Kellen. I apologize.
No worries.
If someone tells you they were misinformed, then you can blame your superintendent.
Thanks, Kelly. And I'm glad I'm right. I don't.
That's all right.
All right, so that's my 2 cents. All right.
And 18 stays the same at the end of when the 9-hole gets bolted on. It's just in the tee boxes, like the 11th green stays as 11, 10th tee stays the same when the.
So the
Back-
additional,
Yeah.
the third 9. Is that right? I was.
That's what I'm trying to remember if that was the case.
I think there was some, Kellen, you're on this
Yeah,
one.
You would know better.
Yes, those holes will stay the same.
Okay.
There will be a couple holes changed on that back 9 based on the new 9 that would be built. So it kind of changes what hole is what number. So basically number 10 would become number 1 of a 9-hole course, but number 11 would probably, I think it would be number 9 of one of those 9-hole courses. So things will change number-wise. But the big thing I'm looking at is that we would need to have a new putting green right off of that 10th tee, with the chipping green being gone, with the clubhouse being over top of it.
Yep.
So there's a kind of a V in the cart path by 10T. I can't see the picture right now, but you guys might be able to.
Yeah, we see
There
it.
would be, okay, there would have to be a new putting green built, yep, down there between the 10th tee and 12th tee.
Oh, between those two.
Those two
Yeah,
cart paths.
In that little
Two
V,
pathways.
yes.
Yeah, where it says 10th tee, right left of that, there's the Y. That's the point that he's mentioning.
Yep, below that, below 10th tee, above the 12th tee, somewhere in there, or in the area just to the left of the cart path that is in the red. But yes, I see a pavilion being built that would be connected somehow to the clubhouse for easy food service.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, for sure.
So those are kind of my main points
So
to
that
point out to you.
makes sense to you, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
But I think any chipping green would be a separate contract.
Is chipping, I don't know where, I know where there's a chipping green over going down the hill and up toward the green community.
Yes, but you need something close to the first tee,
You do.
which is the 10th tee at this point. You need something close that golfers can putt on right before they go out, like we have at the putting green by the clubhouse right now by the first tee.
And I think that we would generally expect that any impacts that were kind of displacements that were caused as part of the project would get reconciled at that time if possible.
Okay.
So we wouldn't
Correct.
want to leave ourselves in a deficit where we didn't have things because we did a different project.
Yep.
Okay, good point.
And those are some things that can be looked at to be built in-house, but that's for an architect to think about.
Space, location, yeah.
Okay. Add that to the scope of
Yeah.
work. It's a replacement if that's the area.
Thank you.
And that's also a good question for Casey too, because he helped build in the golf course, so he knows
He
that
did?
he can handle that sort of thing too.
He was around during that time.
Well, kudos to him.
Okay, part
Absolutely.
2, attachment 2, or attachment B
Yeah.
to the RFP is a bit more detail of what we're hoping for in the scope of work. And this isn't to be this wouldn't be the chosen consultant would take this and then develop a work plan to price out to when
Is
they
this where the
propose back.
business plan starts coming into play?
Not yet.
Okay.
Well, so the business plan is part and parcel. It is included within the RFP itself,
Sure.
and it's one of the scoping items is the business plan. So provide an economic analysis of the restaurant and financing plan. But this is really just the upfront, what do we hope to get out of it? More detail than what you'd put in the RFP,
Okay.
in the body of the RFP. And then when we choose, when they get under contract or to get under contract, the selected consultant would develop a work plan and give us line item prices for that work plan, project management, civil design, architectural design, site lit, however they organize it. Everybody's, like I said, they can skin the cat 100 different ways. And that includes, so that a lot of this came directly from Roger's summary
Oh,
that you baked into your PowerPoint.
Okay.
So a lot of this, most of it is from that. What I added to it was, who the anticipated project team was, the architect. Clearly, I'm a civil engineer, so I put them first. Probably need to add in the architect on that for the team. Would be a good one on page 2.
Yep. Down at the bottom.
Yep. Add that in.
What is it?
The architect,
Oh,
the building designer. Civils do everything but the building.
So I had a question on that. So is it expected that, what level complete design would be expected as something that's in your mind based on the conversations that have been had? So far, like a 10% to 30% design?
I would put this at 30%.
30%?
I want to have enough information to have a pre-app with the city
Yep.
for it. That
So
would get us that.
more than a concept design to be able to go
I want to go
preliminary
SD
planning.
to DD, basically, in land. So site, schematic design, SD. So there's 4 stages of design and construction in this world. So SD is schematic design. So that's a little more than a napkin sketch. And then you go design development, DDs, and that gets you through your land use. So it gets your first narrative, your first application to the city, at least through a pre-app. That the city can tell you, okay, here's all the code conditions you have to follow to do a new development in the city. So my thought is this takes us up through enough to get to our conditions of approval.
Yep, that's where I'd want us to get us, because that's the next step we would hope to be doing.
Okay.
So that's great.
And then once you get your DDs, your design development documents, that gets your conditions approved from the city and enough finance cost estimating to punch it through the final design and construction. And so that is CDs, construction documents, is the 3rd stage. And then the 4th stage is construction administration, CA. So we're gonna take this through DDs to get our conditions of approval.
great. What's the A again?
Construction administration.
Administration. Oh,
And then the very last page of that is the schedule. So I want to have the design, concept design analysis done by January 2026, with the hope that the alternatives, the preferred alternative from the district gets to choose the alternative they want by February of 2026, which puts us in enough time to put that next budget request in to start the design in 2020.
Yep.
July.
July 26.
Right. So basically, we'd probably miss that 2026 construction season, but we would be able to get it in through land use and into engineering, so that in preparation for the next one, we have our ducks in a row in good shape.
First of all, I like your thinking to get it done that quick, because
Well, I mean, all things, all stars aligning, you want to line it up right, and you kind of got to do it by construction season.
And that's after we get through this concept of preferred alternative in January, February of 26. We could make a decision, possibly, to either continue on the traditional design bid build approach, where we do the full design and put the whole package out to bid, and then construct it, or we could look at a progressive design build alternative delivery approach, where we bring the contractor and the designer together and start banging and award a construction contract to be designed and constructed simultaneously. It's a bit of a design as you go, which would put us possibly into construction as earlier in 26.
You said the word progressive design, or words.
Progressive design build. So there's different alternative delivery methodologies,
Okay.
construction management, general contractor, and I wish Tom was on because he could tell us more about these, because it's
Yeah.
the world he lives in a lot more than I do. There's design build, where we just say, here's what we want, and they go, and they turn the keys over when they're done.
Yeah.
And progressive design build is kind of that hybrid between, I can back up, CMGC, construction management, general contractor, CMGC. They get brought on early in the design, but under a separate contract with the district, along with the designer, and they get to influence and weigh in on the design, providing real-time construction cost, real-time constructability review, looking for fatal flaws of things that we might not see as a contractor. And then they give, at a certain stage, a guaranteed maximum price to the district, and the district says, yep, go forth and build. And they usually do 10 to 20% of the work themselves and then have a bunch of subs doing the rest of it under a CMGC. But the district gets to weigh in at every step along the way up to that guaranteed max price, and then the contractor's off. Under design build, it's just the opposite. We give them the alternative, they give us a price, we say go, and then they turn the keys over at the end of the project when it's ready to be commissioned, or after it's commissioned. Under progressive design build, which is the newest way we're seeing out there, is they're still brought on early with a price, but the district gets a lot more flexibility in weighing in on certain key design decisions. Everything from fit and finish to size and scope, and it's just a 9 to 10 month negotiation with that contractor. And then they give a guaranteed price, and the district says go, and they get the keys at the end.
Have you had any connection with any of these that he's talking about?
Progressive design build, no. The others, yes.
Well, this is all new to me. I'm not in the construction.
And I would say we do have, the last 6 or 8 months, we've had a capital projects manager, Gary Barth, helping us out half-time. We're talking to SDAO, or it's the Special Districts Association of Oregon, and the Mid-Willamette Valley COG, about, we're a member with both of those organizations, and so we can get member services, including personnel. So we'll probably do another half-time capital projects manager shortly. And so we're kind of putting the feelers out with both of those to bring that person back in, because one of the things that we've been doing is trying to get the projects unstuck. So we'll have 3 projects under construction this summer, which is, as I understand it, about 3 more than we've had under construction the last couple of years. So we're trying to get those things that have really been bottled up going. And so this, I don't know if this group would consider this to be one of those, if it's kind of been talked about for a long time but hasn't gone anywhere, but maybe. But this feasibility study seems like the right step to do that. And I mean, one of the things I was curious about is everyone, and I was hoping more of the committee would be here so I could ask the whole committee, but you two have been some of the most active people, but it's a feasibility study. If the business plan, the financing plan, the study overall show that it doesn't pencil, you guys, that's an alternative that could happen?
Yeah, but with options, I hope.
I do too, and that's why I was pleased to see that there were multiple alternative evaluations, because I want to see an alternatives analysis in here. Because if there's one that's like the semi-open outdoor space that is essentially a very polished up snack and whiskey bar or something like that, that seems like that pencils, but we don't get some of the other bells and whistles, but that one works for the district, then maybe that's acceptable. And I don't know what alternatives would be there, but I just want to make sure that we know that it's not a done deal. The reason we're calling it a feasibility study is because we're evaluating feasibility.
Well, I brought up about over a year ago the question whether it can be built in phases, to say, not if we didn't have enough funds to build the whole thing all at once, including the third 9, can we separate or segregate that building in 2 or 3 phases of construction? And that would be an alternative as far as I can see, but I don't really know.
Could be. There are costs. I mean, there's good things about that, and there's also costs with it. Kind of like remobilizing. You're signing up for 3 times as much permitting and those sorts of things, which seems about the most painful part of it. And that's coming from planning. So I mean, I understand that permitting is a requirement. I'm not as adverse to it as some others would be. But to me, this facility, it's not going to be such a big facility because it's really accessory to the golf course. Because it's a nice to have that supplements the golf course. It supplements it as a major amenity that's there. But as a building, structurally, it doesn't need to be super complicated necessarily. Like, I think that it's great we have a rendering to show, and that rendering might be like kind of in the ballpark of what could work because it's a pretty simple structure.
Very simple, yeah. But it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the thing. It looks kind of elegant. It's kind of airy. And I could see some elements too that, I don't know what stylistic things the group has talked about too, about what would feel like a good space, or what clubhouses are clubhouses that we think would fit here. Because I could also see it's mild enough in even the wet portion of the year, and our golf course is playable enough that a big overhang that's maybe got some elements that let you be outside or feel like you're outside, even though it's kind of wet and cold and all this other stuff, and you can still have your glass of wine and
Put it on the
do your
leeward
nine.
side of the one traditional,
Yeah.
typical winds.
Yeah, think about prevailing winds and where the sun typically is and what times of year.
Hmm.
And that would be another sustainability thing. So if you think of like, people talk about passive solar and passive energy and those sorts of things, that's basically pointing your building the right direction so you maximize sun when you want it and you minimize sun when you've got too much of it. And those sorts of things. And I think those could be really good design options. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on those, Tony, when you were kind of thinking about these, but
I didn't.
I mean, you,
and I mean, the design professionals should
That's.
do
I think
those.
that's
We
one
don't
those
need to have a lot of
points
it. Can I ask a couple of questions that I saw in here?
right there. Sure.
You had the working title, had architectural services, and it had said architectural services for replacement. So if it was just titled something like feasibility study or feasibility study and market analysis or something like that, would that be consistent, or would that be okay? Or is there a reason those were in there?
No.
Okay.
Would you say feasibility and market analysis?
I'm not sure whether or not to request a market analysis, because a market analysis would almost be like for a new golf course. But we probably need some economic feasibility study or something like that in there.
I think we should add marketing analysis, because the bottom line is this a revenue generator and how much?
Well, and that's right. And so that's the market analysis portion of it is, would the market sustain this locally?
Right.
Would that work for us? And I think that in some of the other terminology that's in there for feasibility study and where we talk about economic analysis, I think that's contemplated in here. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misreading where it was called we just use the word replacement as opposed to feasibility study. But like, Tony, this is the second time I've met you, so I'm not expecting you to have had the same conversations that I've had. And so I don't know what you started with or what people ask you to do. So this is great. So
Yeah, start somewhere.
yeah, exactly.
Throw
And
it-
I think it's
throw it-
great.
throw it
And
out
it's going
there
to save us a bunch of time.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
So,
So feasibility and market analysis for the replacement of the Sheridan Golf Course Clubhouse.
something like that.
Very,
And feel
very
free.
wordy, but
I was going to say, feel free to pare it down. If it was just feasibility study and then the mention of a market analysis or anything like that is in the scope of services section, it doesn't need to be included, in titling,
feasibility
that's fine.
for Sheridan Golf Course
Good idea.
Clubhouse. There we go. Okay.
Let's see. The kind of the opening paragraph where it talks about architectural consultant, to me, and especially because you actually listed out the expected team, it'd be more like an economic, business planning, design consultant team or something like that is what I would expect. But as you point out in your later thing, is this going to be a whole team of professionals working together, because there's going to be different skill sets. The knowing what your expectation is for the level of design that it gets to 30% design, I think that would be excellent to have that put in here, unless we think that puts a box around whoever's coming in to bid on this. But if that's an outcome, because then we're not telling them how to build, we're telling them what level we want to design it to. So that seems like that would be a plus. I didn't remember seeing that in there, but it could be in there somewhere. And then, Tony, I don't know where you thought it would be ideal to mention the desire for key deliverables to include a feasibility analysis, a business plan, and a financing plan. But to me, I could see that being like under section 3 of the scope of work stuff, the approach and resource allocation, but maybe that's not the right place for it.
I think that
Maybe.
would go into the Exhibit B.
Would it be Exhibit B? That's what I was thinking, if that
And
was
then
more.
they need to review that to give us what their approach is to match the
Okay.
deliverables.
I think that would be great. One of the things I was gonna suggest, and I think this is an Exhibit B, is that we try and give them as much of the public outreach components that we have. So you guys are doing a report, so you're doing a lot of the stuff that a consultant often doesn't get until they're in the project, in my opinion. So giving them the report, giving you your findings, giving them those sorts of things, potentially giving them some of the architectural renderings that have been worked up in prior iterations too, so that we give them hopefully relatively good resources.
Is all of that on the webpage?
I don't know the answer to that.
And
Do you, Bob?
And could it be?
We put the renditions on there.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
think we can take our report, so Bob's presentation, the executive summary, and the previous renderings that were done, we can put those all on the website for the project and reference that
Yep.
in the,
Yep, and if we need to have it in the distribution pack, I mean, I guess you don't want to bog down something that now it's not transmittable because you made it so gigantic with files. But we can certainly make that as a specific area to go to for
and
them.
a good consultant will be pulling this up on their,
That's right.
on the
They,
website.
they should
saying-
certainly be able to find it.
Yeah.
But we could do those, and we might be able to have, I mean, I could do some basics for putting something up on there for, like, in the Exhibit B, you had mentioned documentation of site conditions and zoning analysis. If there's things that we know that are pullable, we could pull those ahead of time to make the RFPs hopefully land better.
Yeah.
Folks, I mean, they should be able to do them too, but if, it's kind of one of those, like, if we give them more materials up front, maybe we get a better RFP response or a more targeted one later.
Yeah. I agree.
So I'd be happy to help with that.
Definitely your world more than mine.
Well, and we can even put things like, we could ask for a zoning verification letter so they know what the permitting pathways are gonna be for
Yeah.
folks, because that might help them if they can determine if it's gonna be if they can tell us like what the procedure is for a golf course and what's allowed at those areas, which frankly, I could also write up a memo and do that and put it in there. That wouldn't be too hard. And then the other thing that, so I just thought that adding some additional materials that interested consultants could access might have some benefits. So I'd be happy to help with that. That'll probably be me as the lead. For this, Casey and I have both been kind of dabbling in things as I get acclimated to stuff, but Casey is on some of the things that are in active construction for the summer. This is gonna be one of the ones that I'm the lead on. But in most of these, I'm gonna keep him informed and he's gonna keep me informed on his projects, in part because we just have different experiences. In particular, like, he's got experience building stuff in the district. And I'm just coming in. But for this, because it's pre-development, I have more experience in that.
Gotcha.
And he said he doesn't have any experience building something that is shaped a lot like a restaurant. So that was something he didn't necessarily feel like that was there. The public outreach, a couple of the bullets that I see on Exhibit B, is there any particular specific outreach that you all were hoping to see through as committee members?
Outreach in what way?
Well, it just says, public outreach with alternatives for community feedback.
What page, please?
It is page 2 of Exhibit B.
1, 2, 3, 4,
So.
6
and-
bullet down.
Yep. Public outreach with alternatives for community feedback, public outreach for messaging on how Clubhouse will be funded, monthly updates to the Golf Course Clubhouse Committee in person, draft and final presentations to the Park Board of Directors. So one of the things, I'm perfectly fine with you guys getting more informed, but if we make in-person presentations a thing, that would probably be expensive. So I think it's a nice to have, but it might be a pricey thing. So that's the sort of one that I would suggest actually just key presentations, like as part of an outreach strategy overall, perfectly normal. Especially like this is something I would expect to have essentially you guys are a focus group for the project. So that's appropriate. So you should be consulted when it's appropriate for them to do so.
Do you think that would be enough of public outreach?
I think there needs to be general public outreach at some point, but I don't know. That's why I was curious what shape you all thought it might or should take.
Do you think this is a options for public outreach could be a virtual, adding the options and what we looked at?
We could do virtual. I've also got a fair bit of experience doing community outreach and engagement activities, so we could do one where that's more of an in-house, but we've asked them to come participate in one that the district is hosting to keep the cost aligned if we needed to. It's just that I really like outreach as part of events. I think it's important to make sure that you kind of put the work in up front so you don't get to something where you want to say yes to it later and people come out of the woodwork and you had no idea that they didn't like something.
100%.
I want to ask you how you go about gathering the information from the public in cases of what you're talking about.
There's different approaches. When they're individual projects, they tend to be more focused. Use things like open houses. You can do virtual open houses. You can do online questionnaires like you guys already did. You can do some of those sorts of things. You can do one-off community presentations, and then you can also do things like focus groups. So those are all really common. And then some of the open house type things, those even amongst themselves have different kind of ways of doing it. So one is kind of the we'll call it a workshop, but it's really a presentation with Q&A. And so that's kind of the standard where mostly if you let a consultant go do one on their own and you've not told them to do extra, they're going to go do that. That's all they'll do. They'll kind of talk at you for a bit. We have these great ideas. What do you think about our great ideas? Okay, thank you for telling us. We'll go back and work on it. And then there's the other ones that are more of a workshop, and those can be one where there's kind of a flow to it, where maybe it's, we're going to give you a presentation, you show up when we tell you, and then we have some voting-based exercises, and we'll do a little talking, we'll get out of here. And that can be small discussion groups, those can be little workstations, they can be things, but usually it's an arrive now, then we do these things, then everybody leaves. And then the alternative to that is an open house, which is unstructured. Everyone shows up when they want. There's no centralized presentation usually. It's usually kind of station-based.
That's
There'll
what I
be
like.
kind of learning exercise. Almost everybody likes those.
Yeah.
They're actually really good with contentious issues. I don't think this will be contentious, but I do think once the public starts hearing about it, they won't really realize why we need more golf course or why we need a clubhouse. Because they might not be familiar with it if they're not already haven't heard something about it or are part of the golf community. People in the golf community kind of know, right?
Oh, yeah.
People have been talking about it. You guys have been trying to rustle up input, do that sort of thing for a long time. But those that don't know. And so they'd be surprised by it, which people being surprised might be surprising to the golf community who thinks that like we've been talking about this forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be worth doing something like that that shows that we do want to talk to folks. And if we have the golf course clubhouse committee participate, volunteer, or help run that, I mean, right there you have a reservoir of people who are knowledgeable, and we could do that. And so we can do that. There's a couple of different ways to do it depending on how we think we'll get good turnout. So you could do it at the golf course, and that's always kind of an appealing thing to do. You do it on site and talk about what the area could be and kind of do a visioning process. Alternatively, if you think that maybe you won't get enough people to turn out, we just did Recreation Ready. We did these river access meetings. And we did one that was kind of a morning coffee and snacks type one at the cultural center.
Okay.
And we got stuck in one of the classrooms as opposed to one of the like prettier rooms. Not that any of them are bad, all of them are good. But then we did a second one over at Stoller Wine Bar, so it was more of a happy hour kind of a vibe. And that one was still more of a, we're going to present and then get feedback from you. But it was a pretty wide-ranging discussion, so they really were trying to get that input and do it more like a roundtable kind of a feel. So those can still be good. But the exercises, which I'm sure any engineer would love because it involves kind of voting and counting things. It tends to go quantitative. What you're trying to do is get a balance of qualitative input and quantitative input. I like or dislike this. It's very kind of empirical. But these are the things I feel over here about finishes and vibe and sustainability and those things, whatever those are.
The things I feel are the ones that get presented to the district board when we go to issue a contract.
That's right, because that's what people show up with
Emotions.
on comments, those emotional things. And so you can't do everything, as much as I also like the voting exercises because it feels pretty clear. You can explain those. It can be helpful to give a space for that more qualitative input and figure out how to record it in a way that you get to keep. So I think having some kind of outreach in here, and I think that we can leave it to the consultant to figure out what that should look like.
I think there's two parts to it. One is, why do we need it? Why do we need a new clubhouse? And how is it going to be funded? And then what are we funding?
Mm-hmm.
So a 3-part public outreach that needs to be really honed in, and then how do we get that message out?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take a whack at kind of
If you want to try that, I would just be curious because I saw multiple public outreach things on here. And public outreach, as someone who's been in the planning sector for the last 10 years, was my absolute favorite thing to do. So I don't want to minimize that I think it's good, but it tends to be really expensive if you have the consultant do it all. But I think internally we can get a good consultant to do the analysis, and then potentially the district can handle some of that facilitation aspect too. So we don't have to put it all on the consultant. They can kind of be a special guest to our public outreach activities. So if there's a way to put it in there, I think it could let us have more funds available to go into the analysis side of it. But I don't know. If a RFP comes back and they say they're going to do it all and it's in the price point we want, that's okay too.
Yeah, there's certain things definitely we'd want the districts to put in. That's the mailing addresses,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
to get the notifications out. But
Yeah.
when we passed the street utility fee in Newberg,
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky to find a way to put more of a bill on my own water bill. But we did a road show where we took it to both Rotaries, to the Kiwanis, to the different
Mm-hmm.
So-
Kind of all the service group
the
community.
service groups in Newberg. So we did a traveling road show as the city staff and the consultant team. We had static boards at the farmers market. So I
Mhm.
could see, at the clubhouse, you're speaking to golfers, so you'd have just the renderings. and
We just
site
need to be
plan.
really careful about our biases.
Yeah, but when
That's true.
you go somewhere else, if you're having an event at Wolves and People or
Mhm.
somewhere else,
Hmm.
you gotta tell the whole story. You can't just say we're doing this.
Well, that's,
You gotta
I
tell the
see your
story
point.
of why
Yeah.
are we doing this. So at the golf course,
Gotta
we're
zoom
preaching
out.
to the choir,
no, true.
right? They don't care. They want the new clubhouse
Mhm.
assumed, right? They want the better facility. Outside of the golf clubhouse, we need to be able to tell the whole story of why.
Yeah, why are we even talking about this? So,
Well, I know there's some reasons that we have to be exposed to the public. I get that, I understand that, and
Yeah.
I've always understood it.
and we
But-
should be doing that with any project, frankly.
With exceptions, of course, but, yeah, I agree, but I think a lot of it is just pacifying. No offense to any public.
I'm gonna disagree with you
You are
respectfully.
totally in a disagreement, okay. I wanna hear it.
Because I don't think that they should just be pacified. They're part of the district. They're going to be contributing. Now,
Okay.
there are financing options where the district, where it's more like off of a revenue bond or something like that, where it's really revenue based off of the golf course itself. But it is a public facility that's part of the district. So I think that if we say that pacifying is good enough, that's a very box checking exercise, and that could really blow up in our faces when it comes to the board for signing off on things or saying, hey, we think this is the version we want to go with, and they say, we cry foul for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so you have to be, I think if you just go for pacification, you're walking a dangerous line, because that's not a very high bar. You really do want people on your side. So how can this golf course clubhouse be something that lots of people feel good about, that people say, I want to have my wedding down there, I want to have my little kid's quinceañera there, I want to have special events and all sorts of other things. I want to do other special events. Maybe I want to do a movie in the park, but I want to do it at the golf course because I have a lovely facility to do it in, or something like that.
Do you feel that the demographics are a contributing factor to the way it's going to sway in accepting or rejecting? You know what I mean? In other words, I don't want to go in too deep into that, but there are certain levels of your lifestyle, if you will. And people don't ever listen or hear anything about golf, and we're opening up to the public, and this is for educational means, because I'm from the private sector now and for many years, so I'm learning as we
Sure.
go, and I'm just curious how that all worked when you put it out to the public, and we're talking 30,000 people or whatever, and you have a small, let's call it a bubble or a section that has never golfed, doesn't care about golf, doesn't even expect to put any more money into a golf club. How do you separate that, or you just assume it's going to be a small minority?
I think you invite them. You say, you have this amazing amenity that you've already participated in, that's here for you, that we want it to be something that you get to participate in. So it really needs to be designed, because we're a public golf course, it needs to be designed for the public and housed at a fantastic golf course.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does need to be special in that way and be public facing, that everybody could be excited about this. And I think that's the way that it could be the most successful. And so there will be people that we'll have to talk to and let them know what a great opportunity is for them, not just the golf community, that they could enjoy it too.
So Joe Fischer, one of the committee members here, he pointed that out one day as we were walking out. He says, why don't we stop focusing on a clubhouse and focus it on what is what the community would enjoy in a structure like this.
Yeah.
Rather than this is a golf clubhouse. Completely change that way of looking at it.
Well, and that's a fair way to think about it, because isn't a clubhouse supposed to be an inviting place when you finish a day at a lovely location?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, who would dislike that concept? That's something that lots of people enjoy.
Somebody that's never been to a clubhouse would not understand that.
Yeah.
Or golfed,
But
but
with you think about the trail system that the district's building
Mhm.
around the community, to have the clubhouse be on the trail system, you know,
Mhm.
the Riverwalk Trail connecting. So
Yeah.
if somebody's out for a jaunt, they can stop by there
Mhm.
as a Volks walk around the cities.
Yeah.
But I think the public outreach, more than you want to bulletproof the decision.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody to come out of the woodwork and saying, why are we doing this? And all of a sudden it's sitting on at the board meeting saying, well, stop the presses, go back and reimagine what this is.
Yeah, we don't.
And I'll give you, this will be an example that's different in scale and size than what we're talking about here, but it is kind of a good example for put the work up front so it's easy later. So start hard, end easy. We had a long-range planning exercise that was 4.5 years long. We did over 30 open houses and workshops at 4 different phases throughout the project. We did over 60 planning commission, and board of supervisors meetings that were work sessions open to the public, all these other things. We had at least 30 or 40 focus group meetings, and we did a bunch of different community presentations. We did the first open houses that were hosted in Spanish, where English translation was provided alongside, there was an indigenous language that we had translation for too. Because we were in portions of a community that had highly Latino communities, because it was a whole county. When it came time to adopt it, we had people come out of the woodwork and said, I've never heard about any of this. How dare you try and adopt this? And we said, you know what? Let us show you how much we reached out, and we just don't know how you didn't hear about this. We also did a statistically valid survey. There was a much bigger budget, there were much bigger things, it was a big long-range plan, but we were able to show that we put in the effort, we made a good faith effort to talk to everyone in town, and it sailed through. Because our decision makers could trust that staff had worked hard, and that the focus groups and the public that had participated had heard about it, and that these other comments that were coming in were somewhat disingenuous. That there had been plenty of opportunity, you just didn't like where it was going for whatever reason. And they wanted to hear like what specifically they didn't like, but when they tried to call us on the process, then they could say, thank you. And then they went ahead and made their decision. And so we want to make that for the board. So this citizen advisory committee, they're advising the board. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you're helping them make a good decision, not one that's going to blow up in their face because we didn't do full and authentic conversations with folks. So that's also part of it is some not damage control, but avoiding future damage control.
Okay, preventative.
Yeah. So, and I do think that we'll get something better, and I think that kind of design thinking will be something that all the golf community can enjoy and that everybody can enjoy.
Great.
So
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't. Let's see where we're at right now.
Kellen, did you have questions? You have
I do not have any questions, no. Some enlightening stuff tonight, so I appreciate it, Tony, definitely. Bob, all your hard work, I appreciate you guys. Clay, very good questions for them, so thank you.
Thank you for being open for us when we want some information. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I think we're about done. I think we don't need to go any further. I don't see anything that we should talk about. There's no, except for Clay, there's no staff, no board. Okay. So the next meeting date, what is that one?
That's a good question.
May, June 2nd, that would be the 9th. So that would be 6/9. Are we okay with that? We don't know yet?
That is on the calendar.
Tentatively? Okay, good. It's 5:30, of course. And that's it. That's all I have.
Okay.
So if nothing else, we are adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Good night,
Richard.
everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Kellen.
Kellen,
Thanks, guys. Good night.
good night.